So as we're stuck for parts on the other projects, I thought I'll jump onto this engine and start to take it apart to get to the rocker boxes, to paint them, clean up the hoses, do some seals, replace these seals, replace the crank sensor, but most importantly over here we've got the studs have snapped off in the manifold. Now they are not a very nice job to get out, they're really nasty. Now I'm going to have a look in the container because I do believe I've got a spare manifold with no studs in, so I'm going to use that first because I just want to get this job moving. So what we're going to do, like I said, take things off. Now last night I put some of this deep creep on this thread here. We've got to take this off. This is a kick down cable and we mustn't break it. It's really important we don't break that because we've got to take this plenum off to get the valve covers off. So we're going to change a few bits and pieces, and one of them is kind of typical on V8s, is this rubber hose here. It is just on its way, and then they crack and draw air in. So that's one on our list. Now we try to get genuine ones wherever possible. The cheapy Chinese ones don't last at all, they're a waste of time. So that's what we're up to today. We're going to have a quick look around this engine, move it more into the middle, and then we can see what we can tidy up and any other things that we need to order. Alright, let's get on with that. I got the cover off the plenum there, whatever it's called. These hoses were particularly nasty to get off, and I think I might just replace them while we're here. And also I'm going to have a look at this later. These have a tendency to block up. This is a heater for the manifold for the intake, so we're going to have a look at that. Other than that, everything was fine on that one. Nothing really to report. Like I said, this is not going to be a full rebuild, it's going to be a check and see what it's like before we take it, put it in the car. I've got the bolts out the valve cover. Now to get to the inside ones, I simply took the two bolts holding the wiring harness off and just pull this out the way a little bit, and it gives you really good access because the bolts are quite fiddly. So this is ready to come off. Oh, also, even though the plug wires are numbered, which I'm going to replace anyway, just one at a time, I always tend to put, on the V8s, I put cable ties around the plugs, like the number that corresponds. So I'll put one cable tie here, 2, 3, and the last one I'll leave off because there's no point putting 4 on, where it goes. So that's that. So let's have a look in real time. See if what this. Oh, I thought I was going to take my hammer. Don't need it. Now what we're going to find. Well, it's gungy. Oh, it's not gungy. It's all dry. Look. Let me put that to one side. Yeah, actually, I've seen them an awful lot worse. I'm going to take all this lot off and clean it up as much as I can. I don't want to take the heads off. Alright, I don't want to take the heads off, but I want to look for damage, looseness and things like that. And this is always a common problem with the V8s, this gungy mess, but it's not that bad. I've seen a lot worse. Yeah, so that's not too bad. Maybe somebody's replaced this gasket once before, but we're going to throw it away. There we go. Get out of it. Get you. So the next thing we're going to do, like I say, we'll take off this shaft, we'll put this through the parts washer, clean this up, same with the cover, and then I'm going to put the cover through the bead blaster, blast and paint it so it comes out really nice. Or I could leave it aluminum. I could do. Anyway, let's do this side, get the plugs out, see what they're like, and then we'll see what it's like once it's cleaned up. I got the plugs out while I was at it on this side, and good news, every single one is nice and black. Not too pretty, but nice and black. But we're going to replace those anyway because they're unknown. Well, the champions, which are kaput. The next thing, I've got the fan off the front. That was a bit of a pain. You have to sort of lock up the pulley while you use your tool to get off the fan. It was a bit tricky. I didn't film it, but we've done it before. The next thing, I'm going to look at all the pulleys. Listen to that. See, that's the tensioner. Dry. So we're going to put a new bearing in that. I'll show you how to do that. The AC. Dry. So we'll put a new bearing in that. The alternator actually isn't too bad. It sounds a bit bad, but what I'm going to do is take the pulley off and put that through the bead blaster and blast that. But I might just take the alternator off anyway and then take it down the shop and they can check it out on their machine, make sure it's alright before it goes back in. One interesting thing I wanted to show you is the water pump. Now when you spin the water pump, it's got that little bit of, look, you see how it springs? That's usually a good sign that the seal's in good condition, and it looks like it's been replaced not so long ago. Well, within the last 8 years. Also, I'll take the pulley off the crank, replace the crank seal down here while we've got good access, and the same goes for the pulley here for the power steering. I'll just take the pulley off, clean it, make sure all these grooves are nice and clean, because you know, like, you don't want to be putting a new belt on with all nasty pulleys, you know, that's got rust on them. The next thing we'll be doing is taking all that assembly off. This, can you see that? I'm going to take all this assembly off because I want to get these pipes, the coolant pipes, and give those a blast and a clean. But unfortunately, they go behind the back of here. We've got to pull all that lot off. I'm not bothered. There's no gaskets or anything in there, so we can pull them off. And again, we can do all these pulleys on the bench. So that's the next stage. One of the reasons why I took off all that front, you know, that cover, alternator and everything off, to get to these 4 bolts here was quite easy. Pull that off, but you can see how the pipe goes around the back, but the pipe also goes over the top of the rocker box, so you can't get it off. A better idea was to come up this side, but anyway, what were they thinking? So I've taken all the hoses off. There's a little bolt down here that we've got to take off for this clamp, but I'm also going to take those 2 off there. Again, pull the wiring harness up. That should allow us now to take that pipe off to blast. To get the hoses off, I think I've shown you this before. Wait a minute, here it is. I've got a series of these tools here, these hooky things, and they get under the pipes, such as this. And this is difficult to do left-handed. You see, like, it gets under the pipes, so you can work that around like that. You could make them out with screwdrivers or whatever, but it really helps to get those pipes off. I don't think that's going to come off yet. Oh, yes, it is. Look at that. Wonderful. See all the rust inside. I'll replace those hoses too. The other thing I'm going to replace, as well, is while I've got access, I'm going to take off the thermostat housing, clean off this corrosion again in the bead blaster, and replace the thermostat with a genuine thermostat, just in case, because now's the time to do these things. The oil pressure switches here give very little problems. Cam sensor, again, very few problems. Yeah, so that's it. So we'll get on with that, and then we can get this cover off, get these plugs out, and then we can make a detailed list of the actual parts that we need, so we can do one big order. Not too bad, not too bad to do, quite easy. But I'm changing the hoses because this is an old engine, we don't know what it's like, and so far so good. I mean, usually you find these bits here are pretty well corroded, so this has had anti-corrosive in the antifreeze. It hasn't been running on water, in other words. So I'm not going to touch too much of here. I'm going to try and clean up the best I can, take all this sticky stuff off the gaskets here, but I'm not going to go, that's as far as I'm going to go. I don't want to do much more, but I'm making note of all the hoses and things like that as we go along, which is the purpose of this video for me. Right, we'll get on with that then.